Welcome to Wines and Wonders with Kirsten Fox. True stories with a side of wine. Looking for inspiration for your life and your wine glass? This is your podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Wines and Wonders with a Psalm and a Shaman. And we are so happy to be here today with you guys. And I asked Dannielle a question. I was like, what is this whole energy body thing that you talk about a lot? I mean, we've talked about it. And so she is going to guide me on a comparison today as to what is the energy body anatomy 101 kind of a thing. So listen and be informed. Dannielle, take it away, because this is confusing to us non-shaman people.
Right. So, energy anatomy, what are we talking about? To understand ourselves as the energy beings that we are. A lot of us have started to understand and realize and recognize that there's more going on than just our physical body and our physical health. That's the most obtuse, right? It's the thing that's in our face. It's the thing that catches our attention the loudest. And along with our physical body, we have these different layers of what we call subtle energy bodies. And within our subtle energy bodies, we actually have different energetic anatomy. So our chakras, those 7 energy centers that run right up the midline of the body, we all have them. They are energy vortexes, and they deal with different emotional components. And we've roughly run through this in past shows. In addition to our chakras, which is nowadays, most people may have some understanding of it, or they've at least heard it. Most people. I would say it's hit mainstream, finally. It's not just relegated to the weird yogi faction of life. It's where it kind of started, because chakras is actually a Sanskrit word that means wheels of light.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
It has been taught and discussed throughout all the yogic teachings and traditions, because it's been such a part of their understanding of themselves as energy beings and spiritual beings. Not that chakras are spiritual parts of us. They are and they aren't, which is why we talk about it as energy anatomy, because it's simply part of our makeup. And so you can be a very non-spiritual person and you still have chakras that have what they have going on, and they're affecting you in the ways that you probably don't know, because you're not aware of your chakras, right? We have our meridians. Now, again, meridians are associated very much with the Chinese medicine practices in acupuncture and also in acupressure or shiatsu. Okay, so both Chinese and Japanese, those cultures have been working with these energy systems. And we know we can look at traditional Chinese medicine and understand now and know, again, it's hit mainstream, that we have these rivers of light, okay?
Oh.
So the chakras, they talk about them as wheels of light because chakras look like funnels. So coming about 2 to 3 inches out of your physical body are your chakras, these energy centers. And we can interface with them, and we'll get into that later in the show. But there's also, and so wheels, they spin. They spin in a circular motion when they're operating functionally. Okay, a normal spinning chakra, if you were to take your hands and dip your pointer finger and your middle finger, okay, take your 2 fingers, and if you were to dip it straight into, go right in between your chest, so that's your heart chakra, okay, and you were to start to make a circle where you're moving towards your left shoulder, and you were start making a circle like that, that is a normal spinning chakra. Okay. Now, if you dip those 2 fingers, again, right back into the well of that chakra, and you were to make a circle where you're going to begin moving towards your right shoulder and making a circle this way, this is what we call a chakra in a discharge phase, where it is releasing density. It's discharging. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we want our chakras to be spinning in a circle where if we dipped our fingers in and we made a circle towards our left shoulder, that is the direction that we want our chakras moving and spinning for an optimally functioning chakra.
Okay.
Now, our chakras are input-output systems. So they are taking information in and they're releasing any density, anything that we don't want, they're kicking it back out. So they're like filtering systems, we could think of it like a filtering system. Okay. But each chakra actually is connected to a different part of your physical body. They come in and they connect into our central nervous system and into our endocrine system. So whatever is happening in these energy centers, we will see a direct relation at a physical level. And so having some kind of understanding of this energy anatomy will help you to have an understanding of what's going on in your body at a physical level. So what I do with clients is I test every chakra to see what is going on, just to give me a overall read of what is happening with a client, what is the state of their energetic well-being, if you will. Now in Chinese medicine, they work with the meridians, and also in the Japanese medicine, they both work with the qi or the ki. So the Chinese call it qi, the Japanese call it ki, and it's your life force energy. And they access and work with this through the meridians, which are, they refer to them as rivers of light, because they run along the body from head to toe. So they're like these channels or these rivers of energy, and they connect through different points. And we can, again, see what's going on in the physical body when you understand how to read the energy system of the body. And for any of you who have gone to an acupuncturist or a shiatsu therapist, they will often read your pulses in your wrist, right? They will grab your wrists and with their 3 fingers, they're reading the pulses. And what that is telling them is what is happening at an energetic level. And then they know, based on the reading of the pulses, what system needs to be looked at or what organ needs to be looked at. Okay.
Wow. That's insane. And I had an experience with acupuncture, and it was truly life-changing, scary, because I hadn't eaten, and I went in for digestive help into the acupuncturist. And I didn't tell him that I hadn't eaten. It was like 10 in the morning. I was working. I was like, it was enough for me to get out the door with kids and stuff in the morning. And he put the needles in, and then the last needle he put in. And of course, I'm kind of partially thinking this is something that might work. And he put the last needle in, and I started to faint. I was like, doctor, I think I've done tunnel. And he, his name is Dr. Ding. He's up here. Up here in Park City. And Dr. Ding looks at me and he goes, "You didn't eat? Did you eat? You didn't eat?" He goes, "Ah!" And he pulls the needle out that he had just put in, and I'm like, "Woo, woo." And he goes in his office and he brings out stale cookies from Christmas that someone had given him, and I don't know how old they were, how many Christmases, but he's like, "You eat. You'll never come here without eating. Now you eat. You stop everything. You eat and you lie down and you don't do anything." And I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So it really freaked me out, actually, because I realized it actually is doing something, and I don't think I went to Dr. Ding for probably 5 years. It was that, oh my gosh.
Traumatic almost.
It was terrifying. So anyway, that was I believe it was the same kind of experience I had when I was doing the chakra on my friend and so those kinds of like, wait, for someone like who's so pragmatic, realistic, for me to see those or feel those things is quite stunning.
Right. right? And this is part of our makeup. This is not about your belief system. This is why we call it energy anatomy. It doesn't matter what you believe. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter if you do yoga or you don't do yoga. You've got chakras and you've got meridians. And you have these layers that make up your energy body. We are energy beings, period. End of story. We operate on energy, life force energy, vibration, frequency. So we have these subtle energy bodies. So we have our physical body, which is like the hardware of a computer, right? Our comparison today is going to be comparing ourselves to computers. We all know these so well. We work with them every day. We have some understanding of how this thing works. Well, this is how our bodies work, right? So we got our physical body, hardware. We have these subtle energy bodies. We have the etheric body, which is the next layer, which is the blueprint or the template, the first layer of software, if you will, that holds the programming, the blueprint for our physical body. Then we have our emotional body. And this is another software piece. Our emotional body is exactly that. It's the layer, the level that is holding all of these different emotions that we have that run. And it informs the etheric body, which informs the physical body, right? So if we are all of a sudden ecstatically happy, our emotional body is firing with this frequency of happy, and it is now downloading that information into the etheric body, which is the blueprint for the physical body, which is telling the physical body, like, whoa, we are happy, right? And there's this
smiling.
Rush. Yes, we're smiling, we're laughing.
Eyes are bright. Okay.
All right, etheric, emotional, and then we have the emotional mental. This is where the emotions will play on our thought, or thought will trigger an emotion. Okay, this is where those two things are wedded. For better and for worse, in sickness and in health, in insanity and in peace. It's nuts.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And then we have our mental intellectual body. And this subtle body is all about the stories that create our thinking, our mental thinking, where we're like, oh God, I'm not going to ever do that again. Oh my God, last time when that happened, remember when mom said that? No way. Oh, Joey, I think he looked at me in a certain way. He must like me. Okay, mental intellectual. It's the mind place, if you will, which again, for better and for worse, that has a lot going on in there. Then we have the mental spiritual, or the intellectual spiritual, or what I call in my language the soul body, which is that layer that holds, okay, this is where we're going to go all shamanic on you. Okay. It's the layer of our body that holds the spirit essence, the programming, if you will, of our soul essence. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no linear, logical reasoning there. It's a vibration, a frequency, an essence, and it is holding soul memory. And I'm going to give you an example of what the heck does that mean, okay? So soul memory is the thing that happens when you meet somebody for the first time that at a mental level, you know you've never met this person. Never, ever met this person.
Okay.
But you meet them, and suddenly you're having a familiar, remembering experience with them, where you're going, God, it's like I've known you forever. It's like we've known each other for lifetimes. People will even say that, right?
Right.
If you're not cued for saying lifetimes, you'll say, it's like I've known you forever, right? It's like we've always known each other.
Yes.
And you recognize each other in a way that you can't put any logical reasoning to. You understand each other in a way that you can't put any logical reasoning to, because you only just met them 5 minutes ago.
Right.
Okay? That's soul level stuff.
Okay.
That is a frequency thing. That is, your soul body is recognizing their soul body, and you get it. Even if you don't understand it, even if you don't even believe in this stuff, you still get it.
Uh-huh. Right.
I will challenge our listeners to write in and make a comment to tell me if you don't believe in past lives, right on. That's even better, because if you've had this experience where you've met somebody and you've said, God, it's like I've known you forever, that's because there's actually a program, if you will, going back to our computer language, that is held in the soul body, where your soul body recognizes their soul body, because somewhere you have met before.
Uh-huh.
You do know each other upon that recognition. And it's a match. It's a lineup that happens. Okay. So here's our 7 subtle energy bodies.
Okay.
Now, why does this even matter? It matters because you and I, when we were talking about what are we going to talk about on our next show, we started talking about, okay, optimal health. How do we understand ourselves to operate and function in a healthy way, an overall healthy way? And we know from one aspect to take care of our physical body, we all get that and understand that. To whatever degree we do or don't do that,
physical, how many times have we heard, eat healthily? Regular exercise, maybe no tobacco, limit your alcohol,
limit sugar,
right?
Sleep well.
And
stay hydrated.
Right, maintain healthy weight, all of those things, that's all. So you're comparing that then, which I think makes total sense, to the hardware. You're basically keeping yourself maintained so that the systems are operating at their optimum ability.
And you want your hardware, you want your computer to be a healthy, functioning computer so it can support and hold the software programs and the things that you want your computer to actually do for you.
Right, for sure.
Right.
And you can tell when it does kind of get gummed up and you're like, something's going wrong because it's taking so long to load this program, this software.
Right. My pages keep freezing. It's not opening quickly. This computer program doesn't work anymore. It freezes. It won't run.
It's like you get that awful little spinning death wheel of color. You're like, what's going on now?
So
I don't know, something's
wheel
wrong.
Of color, I would turn that back around and say, all right, so what is happening with your chakras?
Wait, are we talking about the computer or me? Because the death wheel of color, if we're talking about me, I don't know if it would be that, but I guess so. If it's a chakra, maybe it is a death wheel of color.
Right. Well, death wheel's a little extreme.
I know. Well, that's what I think of it when I see it.
Right.
Yes.
So we can begin to understand and look at our energetic anatomy, understand this aspect of ourselves in terms of healthy well-being, healthy functioning. And we can use our computer as the analogy because we understand that, right? So we
For
can,
sure.
Yeah.
We can compare that. The other piece of this is it becomes so personal when we start talking about our bodies, and also when you're talking about things that aren't touchable. At least I get it that my computer is hardware. It's physically sitting there. It needs to be maintained. It needs to stay. But the software in the middle of it is like downloaded and it's just magic. It opens or it doesn't open, I guess it. But very different experiences for me as the person. And so comparing the computer to the physical and the software to the other spiritual components
or
and energetic components. Yeah, that makes sense. So thank you. Okay. Yes, I approve.
You approve. I'm Kirsten Fox and I approve of this message.
All right. How can we, shall we take a break?
Yeah, we'll take a break and then we'll launch into the comparison.
Oh dear. Okay. Stay tuned for more befuddled Kirsten Fox as Dannielle takes me down the path of energy. Thank you to Uplift Gift, our sponsor today. Uplift Gift is a gift box company that you can use to send beautiful, comforting items to your friends around the country who may be going through challenging times. These days when it is harder to get out and grab a bunch of beautiful things from around different stores in your area and then box them up and get them to the post office. Uplift Gift is there for you to select lovely items, including caramels and beautiful organic teas and a pashmina that you can send to your friends around the country if they need some uplifting. So thank you again to Uplift Gift for sponsoring the show today.
Welcome back to Wines and Wonders, inspiration for your life and your wine glass.
Well, welcome back. Have you gotten a cup of coffee, taken a deep breath on your walk, whatever you're doing to put us in your ears? Well, I know no one just sits around and listens to us in the living room. Like you've got to be multitasking. Yes, you're dusting, whatever you're doing. All right, so we talked about how the energy body is a little bit like, or a lot like, software, and our hardware, the computers, are like our physical bodies. And you did a good job of explaining all the chakras and the meridians and that, which are becoming more popular, certainly. I think that's something that was just out of complete, no one else knew about that 20 years ago, 30 years. Now people at least, I think I remember my 7-year-old telling me at one point that the reason she'd done something wrong was one of her chakras made her do it.
Wow.
Yes. So yes, right. Someone had told her about that. I don't know if that was me. So anyway, so now where do you want to take us on this journey of comparison?
So I want to run through this list. So we looked up a list of computer maintenance tips.
Okay.
Right? And because we can talk about, just like you said, exercise, eat well, limit this, limit that, get good sleep. Like those are the things that we know for our physical body. But how can we actually maintain optimal health in our energetic body, which directly affects our physical health?
Sure.
It is not a compartmentalized system, because remember, I said that in our emotional body, if we have something going on, it's informing the etheric body, it's informing the physical body. Now, likewise, we know if we've been sick or if we've been in chronic pain, it has a direct effect on our emotional state. Right? So the information goes both ways. So whatever we have going on in our physical body will be informing the etheric body, the emotional body, the mental body, the soul body. And so how can we... because we love to give our listeners tips, right, Kirsten?
Yes, we do. Yes. We're all about tips.
We are. So what are those tips that we can do for ourselves to maintain and keep healthy energy bodies that in turn help our physical body, that in turn help our mental well-being, that in turn actually help our spiritual well-being, no matter what that is for you? Does not matter. It actually frees you up to be in a clear state of having that higher connection to whomever, whatever you connect with.
Okay, so we're going to be using the framework of maintenance of a computer and talking about that applied to our energy.
Correct.
Okay, bring it.
All right.
Bring it.
All right, what do we got? Computer maintenance tips. What's our first one?
Well, you need to have a current operating system.
Updates.
Well, you need to update them.
Yes.
But you need to, so we
all have an operating system. And our operating system is actually based on our many things. It's based on our upbringing. It's based on our belief systems, our spiritual, religious upbringing. It's based on our socioeconomic class upbringing. It's based on these things. So these are our operating systems, really. When we look at it, we start to say, okay, how do I operate as an energetic being? How do I think? How do I feel? And can we continually work with, so on our list here, on our maintenance tips, it says, installing current operating system updates. So, we all know that on our phones. You iPhone people, which I happen to not be one of, get these things all the time. And if you don't update them, your phone dies and blows up, right?
A little more, it's dramatic, but no, it just, you get apps that don't work. And if things stop working well.
Yeah.
And so, you do these updates, by God.
Yeah.
So there's no one telling us right now that you better do your chakra update, right? There's nobody making you do it. We don't see the effects of not taking care of our chakras. There's no, well, excuse me. We don't see a direct
associate it.
Connection. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So how do we update our system, our energy system regularly? We can work with, an easy one, which also correlates to maintenance tip number 2, clearing the cache in your internet browsers. It's clearing the junk, right? But is having a simple, very simple meditation practice. Some people have very elaborate meditation practices or very serious and intense meditation practices, which all of the above are wonderful. And not all of us are cut out for the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is go meditate for 45 minutes kind of program. I certainly don't do that.
I'd be back asleep for 45 minutes.
But you know what I do? My ritual for myself, for installing current operating system updates.
Yeah.
I do this with a cup of coffee, y'all. So I get up in the morning, I make my coffee, and I sit on the couch with no music, no TV, no phone, just me and my coffee. And I get really quiet and I do a dump. I dump the mental insanity in my head that happens when my eyes open in the morning and I think, what are all the millions of things that I have to do?
Yeah.
It's like clearing the cache. I go sit on the couch with my cup of coffee and I thoroughly enjoy my cup of coffee and I'm quiet and I practice no thinking.
Well, doesn't sound that bad.
Right. I mean, it just takes me to drink 1 cup of coffee, which isn't very long.
I do something similar. I'm not going to say I do it on a regular basis. Okay. But I have this app it's White Noise. And there is so I would like to think that I could sit on a couch with I have tea, but my cup of tea and just keep doing what you're doing, but I can't. My brain just takes over and it runs away all the time, whatever, like you're saying. So what I do is I put on the white noise waves. And the waves, it's just very light. And then you hear this, right? And then there's a little click, and then, and I'm doing such a good wave job here.
Yeah.
But what happens for me is every time there's a big I do try to keep my eyes closed as much of this as I can, but I can feel the wave. I allow it to feel like the wave is cleansing my brain of the thoughts.
Right.
So every 15 seconds or so, there's a crash of the wave, which allows me to then refocus that the water's running over my brain and I'm not supposed to be thinking. So it helps almost like on a regular basis. I mean, it's not a metronome clock clicking, but it helps clear my brain because I can't do a very good job of keeping my brain clicked out.
Right. Yep.
My problem.
It's the mental body, right? It's got a lot going on in there, which could bring us somewhere down the list to, being able to totally, it goes back to clearing the cache. So when you think about it, what is happening? Our brains are going crazy with all the things that we have going on, which is actually the byproduct of if we could begin to understand, like, okay, wait a minute. Moving out a couple layers here from my physical body, I've got this subtle energy body that is the mental body, which is storing all this stuff. And it's got it all programmed in there. And so there's this direct correlation, this understanding that what is going on in my mind right now is actually the product of what is laid down in this mental field. Okay, so when energy healers, what they're doing when they're doing energy work on you, when they're doing energy healing is, now this varies. This isn't every single energy healer is doing it exactly this way, but they're doing some form of this in their trained modality. What I do is I go through and I actually scan that field and see what's going on and then help to clear out the density out of that field. And I'll do this in a dialogue place with my client and pick up what's going on with them and we talk about it. And then to assist them in clearing it out and being able to release that. So your waves, when it helps you and you're thinking about it, washing away what's going on in your mind, is actually when you're doing that, Kirsten, you are effectively bringing a different vibration and frequency to that subtle energy body, and you're helping to keep the cache clear. Okay, if we're going to relate this back to the computer.
Right.
You're helping to clear the cache.
Yes.
And this is why some NLP practitioners, neuro-linguistic programming practitioners, okay, they do a lot with reframing words.
Yes.
If you're familiar with that modality.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, one of the things that I remember when I was working with somebody is they would say, imagine like you're right, either you do it for real, or if you can't, because you don't have a sticky note and pen in your hand, write it down on a sticky note and put it over here so that you're getting it out of the way. And you're not
out of your brain. It's not your brain's not having to track it anymore. Oh, that's like RAM versus the whatever I don't know what the other one is. But RAM's that short-term memory. And if you've got yourself all clogged up with all those ideas and to-do lists and think who do you need to call, thank you notes for your birthday, whatever, right?
And then you can't even grocery shop, right?
Right.
Because you can't do anything without a list. So if we can get rid of what we don't need, when we can clear the cache of what we don't need, then that actually frees us up to be, one, more present with what's happening right in the moment, and two, we can more easily reach into the files and grab that thing that we need. So when we run into the grocery store, we're not like, God, I know there's 5 things and I don't know what they are.
Right.
We'll know what they are because there was room for the storage of it.
Right.
And the more that we can find a practice of this, the more readily we will dump the cache because it feels better.
You know what? It really does feel good when I make time for this. And in the waves. It really does. It feels good, and I just don't make time for it on a regular basis yet.
I've started not listening to anything while I'm driving to and fro. I mean, I've done this a few years ago. I used to always have something on in my car.
Yeah.
A radio, a CD, a tape. Remember those things?
A tape.
Yeah. So I used to always have music. I love music. I would always have music. It was just the time to listen to music, right? Driving your car or whatever, when you're by yourself. And a few years ago, I stopped. I just wouldn't even turn the radio on. And wherever I was going to, whatever my drive time was, and these are mostly short commutes. God blessed, driving to Oregon, you can't do nothing for 12 hours.
No.
Right? So short commutes. And that would be my time to clear my brain, to do no thinking.
We would hope minimal thinking, at least while you're driving.
Pay attention to what is going on around me. Remember I said it brings you back to full presence of what's happening?
Which is a good thing.
Fully present in my driving.
Okay, got it.
But it was the time and space that is also carved out, where it's just like, okay, I'm going to practice just clearing that cache. So that's one tip for that mental place.
Okay,
Yeah.
What's the next tip?
All right, we have maintaining current antivirus and malware, right? We all know about the viruses and the malware on the computer. So, I have a system that is installed on my computer called WebRoot, and it just does it every time I turn my computer on. It does an automatic scan for malware and viruses. So what happens? Malware and viruses, what are those when we're talking about our energy body? You can liken malware and viruses on your computer and why we want to have antivirus and anti-malware business going on to what is the quality of the environment that I'm in. So when we are in toxic, unhealthy situations, whether that's for a short amount of time or over and over and over, our fields, those subtle energy bodies, get worn down, and we can end up picking up negative energy, intrusive energy, chaotic energy. We can get brought down by somebody's negative attitude or behavior, right? It affects us. We can be up and light and happy, go into a situation, have an encounter with somebody, and leave feeling angry, feeling drained, feeling negative, feeling depressed, whatever that is. We all know how that experience goes. Now, what's going on in your energy body is that literally what's happening is you have picked up their virus, if you will.
Oh.
You have picked up their virus. It is now in your field because our energy bodies are absorbent in that way. And we will absorb or take on other people's stuff. We know that.
I think there's some people that are better at that than, I mean, it's better in a bad way, but like they'll pick up, they feel responsible for,
Yes.
I mean, I know some friends that'll, a neighbor, I mean, it's just like constantly they're worrying about people in their world,
Yes.
whether it's lightly in their world or heavily in their world.
Right.
There's constant care and energy and all this stuff focused outside of themselves. Not to say that's not helpful, I'm sure at some point, but they start to get depleted.
Yes. So this is another reason that it's helpful for us to understand our energetic anatomy, our energetic side of ourselves, because it's not overt, it is subtle.
Yeah.
And sometimes, depending on the situation, depending on the person, depending on the intensity of whatever it is that's going on, we will literally take it on. It's like as if we just took that person's stuff and put it in a backpack that we're wearing, and we said, I will now carry that for you.
Which you do almost automatically with your children.
Correct.
Yes.
And your spouse, oftentimes.
Your spouse, yes.
Willingly and unwillingly.
Yes, but you take that stuff
do.
on. Right, you're right.
And so when we can have an understanding of what is happening there, we can, what is the maintenance for that? The maintenance for that, there's two kinds of maintenance. Okay, one is fortifying your field. It's the preemptive work. It's the fortifying your field so that your field is strong and connected to yourself and fortified so that you're not just walking around in the world and absorbing it. This is what empaths have going on. This is why it's very hard for a truly empathic person to be out in the world, to be out in the public sphere, because they're just like these dry sponges, and everybody else's energy is like water to the dry sponge, and they're just drinking it in. Yeah. Very hard for them. And so when I work with these kinds of clients, we work with the preemptive. We work with what is, for instance, when we install antivirus or malware onto our computer, that's the preemptive.
Okay.
Right? We're installing it onto the computer and we're saying, okay, computer, now you have everything you need to make sure that stuff doesn't get in.
Right. So what's that look like for someone
for
like
somebody
us?
like us? It looks like, one, having an understanding and just knowledge is power, right? So knowing like, wow, I better pay attention to what's going on. Two, being able to have those practices where we can clear our mind. Having, if you're not a meditator, none of what I'm saying is going to really convince you. You got to be kind of bent that way, because meditation, as much as we hear, like, have a meditation practice, it's so helpful. Like, some people are just not going to go have a meditation practice.
You could have a white noise practice.
You could have a white noise practice. You can have a get out and take a walk every day in nature practice, right? A few shows ago, we talked about that. And
nature, sure.
And its effect on our field. You can have a breathwork practice. So for those of you who are bent into like, hey, I'm a disciplined person who likes to have a practice, but I want you to tell me what to do, there are a bazillion guided meditations. Insight Timer is one I know of, and I know there's 500 others that I'm not thinking the names of. And your breath. Very, very simply, your breath will fortify your field if you actually use your breath intentionally. So there's a practice that we do, that I teach, that is a breathwork practice that can be as long as 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever, if you have the time and space and the desire to do it. Or a lot of times I tell my clients, first thing in the morning, take 10 deep breaths where your intention is to let every breath fortify your field, your energy field. Your physical body, of course, is going to get it. It's happening. You're breathing deeply. It's oxygenating your cells and your blood and da-da-da-da-da. Deep belly breathing massages the vagus nerve, which helps to reset the fight or flight. Like there's all these things that's going on. But equally, when you're doing that in your physical body, it's sending out these impulses, this vibration, this frequency that is helping to fortify those layers, those subtle energy layers that are the energy body. And the more that we do that, the more we are fortifying our field so that we are not as absorbent of other people's energy. And the more that we have a practice where we tune into what is happening with us, how do we feel not just in our physical body, but how do we feel in our energy body? How am I today on an emotional level? How am I today in my mental level? How am I today in these subtle ways? Then we begin to know ourselves, and when we pick somebody else's stuff up, we know it because we're like, "Oh, that's not mine."
So you start to recognize it better. It's like you're your own antivirus.
Yes, you're your own antivirus. And breath work is the simplest and easy way. Now, there are other great practices. Tai Chi is a wonderful practice because it actually exercises your etheric body. Remember, the etheric body is the layer that holds the blueprint for the physical body, but it's the interface to the emotional body as well. So and it works with those meridians. And it works with moving your chi. And it is a wonderful practice for that strengthening and fortifying. Yoga is a great practice. Not exercise, I need to go get my butt kicked yoga, which is great and fantastic. But what I'm saying is there are these practices that you can take them and you can fine tune them and turn them into a practice where you're actually exercising your energy body.
Oh, okay.
And that's what some of these practices that have been around forever are actually
trying
doing.
to picture the poses for that. I'm just
more like restorative yoga.
Okay, so is it the lying down one where I get to fall asleep?
That's Shavasana.
Shavasana, that's my favorite.
There are many different yoga paths, and not to say that your workout yoga isn't doing that. It is. But what I'm saying is that there's a place where it shifts. If you're working really hard, you're thinking a lot about your physical body and what kind of strength it takes to keep up with the hot vinyasa yoga, right?
So that's more about the physical.
And you're getting all the other benefits.
Sure.
But there are yogas that are, like there's an Anusara yoga practice. That's just the one that's coming to me off the top of my head. There are many, but it is a heart-based yoga practice that works a lot with what is happening in my energy body along with this pose that I am doing. So to preempt it, we can do exercises that strengthen and fortify our energy body as well as our physical body. That's going to help you to not just pick things up. So now this begs the question, what happens if you just go out and you're picking things up?
Yeah,
right. So we go back to, can we tune into our field? And this is my visual practice. And when we visualize this and access our energy bodies, we are really doing it. This is not make-believe stuff, okay? But we want to use visualization and imagination when we're tuning into our subtle energy bodies because it moves us into a different region of our brain and it helps us to access those subtle aspects of our body if we're not honed in on it, if we're new to this practice. So what I do is I think about my field and I think about what was my day. I do this at night before I go to bed.
Okay.
What was my day like? How do I feel? Am I carrying other people's energy?
Wow.
And then I think about unplugging energy out of my body and sending it back to sender lovingly.
Okay.
No animosity. Back to sender, just saying simply, if this is not my energy, let it go back to whom it belongs. Okay? And I think about it like unplugging something that I took on that plugged into my body, and I unplug it and send it back.
So kind of like one of those things, I mean, I've done this before where they ask you if you're going to use this little software program to edit a photo.
Yeah.
And you go in and you're like, yeah, sure. And then 10 minutes later, you've got an ad popping up and you're like, okay, wait, that's not what and then you realize that was one of those things that, and so you go, because then you can just uninstall that in that case.
Uninstall it. Great.
So that
so this is what we're doing. We're uninstalling other people's energy.
Yeah.
So back to energy anatomy. Our energy bodies are geometrical and they're moving. They're always moving. And they are these filaments of light moving around us all the time. And when we take on something from another person, it's as if one of their filaments of light came into our field and plugged into our system. And this is actually literally what is going on. Okay, if you could see it with your eyes. And so you take that filament of light and you unplug it. And again, with reverence, you say, this is not mine, and back to sender. And equally, you want to unplug your filaments of light from that person if there was an exchange in that way. And so you visualize it, you imagine it, you see it in your mind's eye, and you think about this line of light is going out and it's plugged into this other person, and I'm going to recall that circuit of energy, that filament of light back home to myself. And in so doing, we are actually fortifying and strengthening our field, because we're bringing our energy back home to ourselves. And we're saying, it is not okay for me to be full with other people's energy. That's like a junked up cache. That is going to slow down, bog down your operating system. You're going to open a window and you're going to get death color wheels.
Not good.
Not good.
Never
good. So
very
we send it
cool.
back, we recall ours. And that's what you do if you pick something up. And of course, we're talking high level, and there's nuance, and then there's individual aspects and cases of all this. And you can go see somebody who works with the energy body.
Yeah.
And they will assist you in this process as well if you feel like it's more than you can work with or handle. Yeah.
So it sounds like we've talked about the hardware, the physical stuff that we're all very familiar with, because certainly Western medicine is all focused on or has been, it's moving. There are some interesting things that are going on. I mean, I know I had cancer, and in the cancer hospital I was in, they had an entire wellness, a whole division of wellness, and they had acupuncture available, and this was all at a reduced rate. And so not only I could go in there and get services, massage, acupuncture, even, I'm not going to remember the name of it, but it was a visualization exercise that someone guided me through, but it had a very fancy name. And not only I could use those services at a decreased fee rate, but my whole family could. Understanding that the family is going through that kind of thing. So to be a part of that energetics when you're sick, you've really got a sickness. The other thing, it's so people are realizing what shamans and so many yogic, they've known this for thousands and thousands of years, but we've been so left-brained in our approach. Now we're kind of starting to get the whole picture. Yeah. So it's really interesting to hear about cleansing. How do you do it? Is there anything else you'd want to add before we go? Yeah. Okay, the wine is coming.
Wine is coming. All right, the last exercise. And this this is so simple, easy, and super effective. Those chakras we talked about, they run through the midline of the body. I'm not going to spend a ton of time explaining exactly where they are. I'm going to say go to Google and Google chakra map, and you will have 500 choices of different places you can click to look at where are the chakras lined up on your body. Okay, but they start at the tailbone pointing down, and they run all the way up to body to the crown of your head, very top of your head, and it points up. And there are 7. And you can cleanse your chakras daily or every other day or whatever when you're in the shower or taking a bath very easily. You're in the shower, you're cleaning the rest of your body, you might as well do some energetic maintenance.
Mm-hmm.
So remember we talked about take 2 fingers, dip into the well of the chakra, make a circle to the left is the optimal spin, make a circle to the right shoulder is the discharge. So we can, in the shower, just run from chakra, there's 7, they run from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is at the top of the head, so tailbone is 1. And you can start with discharging the chakra while you're in the shower. Discharge it. Think about that you're like dusting these funnels because they look like funnels. And when you dip your fingers in and you're making a circle to the right, you are actually clearing out the dust or the density or the heaviness or anything that you've picked up that is not yours. You're cleaning it. It's like dusting furniture.
And I'm not going to necessarily feel anything unless I'm really good at it.
You're not really going to feel anything probably. But that's not to say some chakras you'll feel more than others because that might be the one where you actually have stuff going on.
Okay.
And so you do that maybe 2, 3 spins, and then you can just kind of rinse your fingers off in the shower, and then you'll come back into that chakra, and now you want to spin it to the left because you're rebalancing it. You want it to spin in its normal direction. Okay, so this is a great practice, super simple, and something you can do if you're feeling heavy, if you're feeling sluggish, if you're feeling run down, actually. Our immune systems benefit greatly to an optimal functioning, energetic body. So if I feel like I'm coming down with something, I will actually do maintenance on my energy body as well as all the things that we do for our physical body and for our immune system and our health, et cetera, et cetera. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for all those tips. I so appreciate it. Stay tuned, you guys. We will be back with a perfect wine to pair with the energetic discussion of today. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned to hear what type of wine Kirsten will pair with this story right after this.
If you have a friend who calls you and is crying and who needs some support from long distance, consider sending a gift from Uplift Gift. These are curated, beautiful packages of comforting items that will take care of your friend if you can't be there in person. Uplift Gift, when words aren't enough.
Thanks for staying tuned to Wines and Wonders. Now, what wine will Kirsten choose for your table tonight? Here she is.
Welcome back to Wines and Wonders. Are you ready for wine?
Ready for wine. Let's do it.
I think we need it at this point for those. I think my chakras are bathed in wine. They like it. So we are going to be talking. I've talked about it before, but we have talked around it, and we've had a couple different wineries that have participated in this study of and usage of something called biodynamics. And biodynamics is an approach to agriculture. It can be applied really to any agriculture. We are talking at this point about it being applied to vineyards and winemaking, but it could be anyone, any agricultural practice. And it basically is the idea that everything is connected in the entire universe.
Amen.
Amen, right? And everything gives off a resonance or a vibe. Everything. The stars up in the heavens, the tree over there in the corner, everything. And so the biodynamics is the practice of balancing the resonance between the vine, the earth, the moon, the stars. basically bringing it into resonance with all this in balance. They're the first winery in Sonoma to get certified as a biodynamic winery is called Benzinger, and I actually, coincidentally, Benzinger is one of the wines that was my gateway wine makers. I loved them. I had no idea what biodynamic. I didn't even care about that. I loved their Chardonnay. I just loved it, and I found a quote from Mike Benzinger, and he said, "At its core, biodynamics is an energy maintenance system." End of quote. And as we were talking about, and I will give a shout out. Okay, listeners, Dannielle's been probably listening to me better than I've been listening to her over the last months and episodes, because she actually said, "What about biodynamic wine to pair to this episode?" And I was like, "Wait, what? Did you just say that?" So yes, I still need a little more help in the spiritual realm. But it was a guy named Dr. Rudolf Steiner in the 1920s. He was an Austrian man. He was the one that basically started this agricultural phenomenon of looking at the entire universe. And so basically I've paired today's show actually to an area of the world. It is the Rhone region of France. And there's a specific winery there, Maison Chapoutier. You've probably seen it. I'm going to spell the end word, Chapoutier, Chapoutier. They are a biodynamic winery, but there are also many, many biodynamic wineries in that region. And so the Pellen family has a winery as well. So Rhone wines, so that's Côte de Rhone, Cotes, Côte de Rhone, and Châteauneuf-du-Pape is a smaller region within that bigger area. These are areas that you can look at that predominantly will have wineries that are working in the biodynamic style. So you might read the back label, see if it echoes what I'm saying. If it doesn't echo it, you might go on to the next winery and see whether they talk about their biodynamic approach. So really it is getting in tune with that resonance between the vines and the earth and all of the entire universe, paying attention, which is what you're saying, to pay attention to all of these all these energy bodies that surround each of us that we can't see, but that have this energetics and resonance with all these other people and ourselves, and they can cause us sickness. They can cause big challenges. They can also allow us to grow faster and better if we keep them healthy, really. Keep ourselves both healthy physically and healthy spiritually, energetically.
I liken it to having maintenance done. Well, there's self-maintenance that we can do, which is what we just talked about. But then, you can go work with somebody, and it's like going to the dentist. We go to the dentist every 6 months or so, right, to have our teeth cleaned because they just naturally build up plaque and whatnot, and we want to check up in the whole bit. And, getting a session with a good energy healer will help to be that same kind of maintenance. It will clear your field, and it will be a great reset. So it's not just about like I have a problem and I need to go. I mean,
that's my approach.
Great, but there can also be simply the the preventative method. So.
I need to get there. That would be a good place for me to work. That would be a good thing for me to work on. Maybe I start with that morning waves crashing meditation.
Dumping your cash.
Dumping my cash every morning. Washing it away. Washing the cash.
Washing the cash. Yes.
Well, is that it? Or do you have anything else to say?
Well, I just did think that I actually do have a handout. I might even have a few. So I will look, listeners. I definitely have one that has a quick guide to where the chakras are located on the body. And I might have a handout for tips, actually, from one of my classes. So I'll look,
awesome.
and for sure you'll see a chakra handout there. And I just wanted to make a comment on Rudolf Steiner, how you were talking about how biodynamics can be applied to many things. Rudolf Steiner, the founder of biodynamic farming, was also the founder of the Steiner method of teaching. And when you start to see Waldorf schools for like preschools, Waldorf schools, Montessori became a spin-off of that, but Steiner actually created a whole model for how to teach our young children within the rhythms and cycles of their natural learning cycles.
Oh.
And so it's the Steiner method that's been around forever as well.
Oh my gosh.
So
That's what
applied even in
amazing.
our not mainstream education system, but
still,
on the
it's
fringe.
there.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you, Dr. Steiner, for
Yes.
all your contributions.
Mhm.
Well, thanks you guys for listening to another episode of Wines and Wonders. And we look forward to figuring out our next episode and chatting about it with you guys listening. And please do let us know if you have any questions or comments, or you have an idea for a show topic and a question that we can cover.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. See you next time on Wines and Wonders.
We look forward to sharing a news story and wine with you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Wines and Wonders.